Imagine holding a single penny in your hand, a coin so ordinary, so forgettable that most people would pass it along without a second thought. Now imagine discovering that this same coin could be worth more than the house you live in, more than the car you drive, more than decades of paychecks combined. What if I told you that the 1941 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is not just a coin, but a ticking time capsule of hidden wealth, a secret treasure disguised as copper? Something happened in 1941 that few people remember. America was on the edge of war. Factories roared, steel was rationed, and the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to produce billions of pennies to keep commerce flowing. In that rush, tiny inconsistencies crept into the presses. Some dies were overused, some had hairline cracks, and some, most shockingly, created pennies so unusual that today they stand apart as legendary rarities. These are the pennies with no mint mark, coins that seem almost unremarkable at first glance, until you realize what you're really looking at. Collectors whisper about them. Stories circulate of men and women who discovered one inside a coffee can of change inherited from their grandparents, or tucked inside an old cash drawer, and walked away with a fortune. What makes these coins so powerful isn't just age. It's the perfect storm of history, condition, and scarcity.
Imagine a Battlefield relic.
Imagine a love letter from the past. The 1941 no mint mark penny is both an artifact from a world about to change forever. But here's the catch. 99 out of 100 people who hold this coin will never know its true worth. They'll spend it. They'll give it away. They'll dismiss it as a single cent, worthless in the modern age. And that is the great tragedy. Because in pristine, untouched condition, this coin has commanded staggering sums at auction. Thousands, tens of thousands, and in ultra-rare cases, numbers so extraordinary they almost feel unreal. Let me ask you something. How many times have you sifted through loose change without a second glance? How many old jars, boxes, or forgotten piggy banks sit in your home right now, silently holding coins that could rewrite your financial story? This isn't about gambling. This isn't about luck. This is about knowing a secret the average person doesn't. So how do you know if the penny you're holding is the one? First, check the date, 1941. Then look closely at the space beneath it. If there is no mint mark, no tiny D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, you may already be holding something powerful. But that's only the beginning. Look deeper. Are the lines of Lincoln's coat sharp? Is the rim crisp? The fields gleaming without scratches? Condition is king. A worn example may only fetch a few dollars. But an untouched specimen? That's where life-changing numbers enter the conversation. And beware. Many people fall into a dangerous trap. They rush to sell too quickly. They accept a lowball offer from a pawn shop or an online dealer who knows exactly what they're holding. Do not make that mistake. Every imperfection, every nuance, every tiny detail on this coin can mean the difference between pocket change and generational wealth. I want you to picture this. You open a small box tonight. Inside, a roll of pennies saved by someone decades ago. You pull one out, squint at the date, and realize 1941, no mint mark. Your heart pounds. Could this be it? Could this humble copper disc be the doorway to freedom, to security, to dreams you thought were out of reach? This is not just about money. It's about legacy. It's about unlocking a secret from the past that could shape your future. And it's about refusing to let opportunities slip away because you didn't know what you were holding. The truth is simple, and it's urgent. Right now, the 1941 no mint mark Lincoln penny has sold at auction for up to $84,000, and experts believe its value will only climb higher as time erases more of its surviving brothers and sisters from circulation. One coin, hiding in plain sight, could transform everything. So I'll leave you with this. Tonight, when the house is quiet and the lights are low, open your drawers, pull out your jars, search your coins, because somewhere in America, someone is about to find a 1941 penny with no mint mark. And when they do, their life will never be the same. And maybe, just maybe, that someone is you. Imagine holding a single penny, a coin so ordinary, so plain, that you'd never glance twice before tossing it into a jar on your kitchen counter. But what if I told you that this one penny, struck in 1942, without a mint mark, carries a secret that could transform someone's life forever? Not next year. Not someday. Right now. Because hidden in pockets, in dusty boxes, in drawers across America, lies a coin that looks like a simple cent, but has sold for nearly $1 million. Pause for a moment. Think about that .1 penny. Almost $1 million. Why? Because 1942 was no ordinary year. It was the heart of World War II. Factories were rushing, mistakes were made, and the United States Mint was working under pressures it had never faced before. Metals were being rationed. Copper was in high demand for ammunition and military equipment. And in that chaos, the Lincoln cent became a quiet battlefield of its own. Most pennies from 1942 are copper, about as common as it gets. Billions were struck. They shouldn't matter. But here's the twist. Some coins slipped through with unusual compositions. Others carried minting flaws. And then, there were those without a mint mark. Coins struck in Philadelphia that, to the untrained eye, appear completely normal. But hidden among them are pennies with microscopic quirks, die variations, doubled inscriptions, and off-metal strikes that turn a single cent into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors know it. The mint knows it. But hardly anyone outside the world of numismatics has ever been told this story. Let me give you a glimpse. Picture a man in the Midwest, decades after the war. He's sorting through his father's old coin collection. Dust, envelopes, rolls of pennies wrapped in brittle paper. His hand stops on a 1942 cent. No mint mark. He almost dismisses it, until he notices the lettering seems slightly off. He checks again. His pulse races. What he's holding is one of the rarest wartime pennies ever documented. That coin later sells at auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, I want you to pause and ask yourself, how many old jars, cigar boxes, or forgotten piggy banks have you walked past in your life without looking twice? How many times have you handed over change, not knowing that one coin could have changed everything? This is not hype. It's history. Here's what makes the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so dangerous to ignore. First, the Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark at the time, meaning all those coins look deceptively identical. Buried within that sea of copper are a handful of minting errors and rare die states. Some were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were accidentally pressed onto metal meant for dimes or foreign coins. Others show doubling, faint ghost images, or off-center strikes. And when these surface, the bidding wars begin. Auction houses know the power of this year. Collectors chase it with obsession, and the hammer prices have soared into jaw-dropping territory. But here's the part that keeps me awake at night. The fact that most people who hold one of these coins will never realize it. They'll toss it back in circulation. Or worse, they'll sell it for $1 or $2, never knowing its true value. So how do you know if the penny in your hand is the one? Look for the date. 1942. Look for the absence of a mint mark beneath the year. That's your starting point. Then examine every detail. Is the lettering perfectly clean? Or do you see doubling, a shadow, a misalignment? Is Lincoln's profile crisp? Or does something feel slightly off? Look at the rim. Look at the edges. Every tiny flaw could mean a fortune. Most importantly, never dismiss weight or color. Some 1942 cents were accidentally struck on steel planchets intended for 1943 coins. Imagine that. A 1942 penny that looks silvery, not copper. That single anomaly has turned ordinary Americans into overnight legends at auction. If you find one, protect it. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Place it in a protective holder and get it authenticated. Because the difference between a coin worth 50 cents and a coin worth $500,000 is simply whether someone recognizes what they're holding. Let me be clear. Right now, this coin, the 1942 Lincoln cent with no mint mark in rare error variations, has been valued at up to $920,000 at major auctions. And the truth is, most people don't even know they exist. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that old drawer or those rolls of coins you haven't touched in decades, ask yourself, what if the life you've been waiting for, the freedom, the wealth, the chance to change everything, has been sitting quietly in your hands all along? Check your pennies. The secret isn't in the banks. It isn't in Wall Street. It isn't in some lottery ticket. It could be hiding in the very coin you've overlooked your entire life. Because one thing is certain. Somewhere in America, someone right now has this penny and doesn't know it yet. And when they find out, it will be too late for everyone else. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand, one so ordinary, so overlooked, that you might have spent it on a stick of gum or dropped it in a gas station change tray without a second thought. But what if I told you that inside that tiny piece of copper hides a secret that could rewrite your financial destiny? A coin struck in silence. A coin with no mint mark. A coin from 1967. 4 decades. It slipped through the cracks of history. Millions of Americans used it, lost it, tossed it in drawers. But today, a few sharp-eyed collectors are whispering about the truth. One of these forgotten pennies could be worth more than a house, more than a lifetime of paychecks. And the strange part? Most people will never even know it exists. Why 1967? Why this year, this penny? Because something happened inside the US Mint that year. Crisis. A decision that changed everything. In the mid-1960s, the Mint faced a coin shortage. Panic swept the nation. People were hoarding silver coins, hiding them away like buried treasure. To regain control, the Mint stripped something away from the coins themselves. The mint mark. That tiny letter, that tiny clue to where a coin was born, gone. Erased. 1967 was a year of secrecy. A year when every penny, dime, and quarter looked the same, no matter where it was struck. But in that act of erasure, a mystery was born. Because not every 1967 penny is created equal. Some carry faint whispers of errors, cracks in the system, tiny imperfections that slipped through the machinery. Double dies, off-center strikes, strange planchet mistakes. To the untrained eye, just another penny. But to the trained, these mistakes are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Picture it. A man in Ohio once bought a bag of loose change from a local bank. Buried among thousands of dull brown coins, he found a 1967 penny with a dramatic strike error, a coin worth more than most cars. And while stories like his are rare, they prove the truth. Life-changing fortune hides in the smallest corners. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you ignored a jar of coins on the dresser or a dusty box in the attic? How many small treasures have passed through your fingers unnoticed? What if, right now, one coin in your house could unlock the freedom you've been chasing? The freedom to wipe out debt, to travel, to finally live without looking at the price tag. And here's the part most people get wrong. They think all 1967 pennies are rare. They're not. Billions were made. But only a tiny fraction, the error coins, the survivors with striking mistakes, carry that immense value. These are the needles in the haystack, the pennies that transform ordinary people into legends overnight. So how do you know if you've found one? Start with the mint mark, or rather, the absence of it. Every 1967 penny will lack one, because the mint ordered it so. That's your first clue. Next, look closely. Use a magnifying glass. Search the date, the lettering, Lincoln's profile. Do you see doubling? Do you see uneven stamping? Does the rim of the coin look off-center? Or does the penny itself look thinner, thicker, or oddly colored? Each of these is a flashing signal, a call that you've stumbled on something extraordinary. But here's the warning. Many have sold these coins for pennies on the dollar because they didn't know what they had. They cashed them in at a bank or spent them at a grocery store, never realizing the true worth. Knowledge is the difference between a fortune and nothing. So take this moment seriously. Go to your jars, your drawers, your old coin folders. Don't just glance, search. Investigate, because this is no longer a game of chance. This is history calling. Right now, collectors are paying up to $950,000 for the rarest and most dramatic 1967 Lincoln pennies without mint marks, especially those struck with spectacular errors. Think about that for 1 second. A single cent traded for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a penny in your hand. Just an ordinary, copper-colored coin, the kind that slips into couch cushions or clinks at the bottom of a jar. But what if I told you one of those forgotten pennies from 1980 could unlock a fortune so massive it would rewrite the story of your life? What if the smallest coin in your pocket was actually the most dangerous secret the US Mint ever let escape? Because somewhere out there, hidden in plain sight, is a 1980 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. To most people, it looks like spare change. To those who know its secret, it is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The question is, will you recognize it before it slips through your fingers? Let me take you back to 1980. The year America was reeling from economic struggle, a time when gas lines stretched around corners and inflation haunted every paycheck. The mint in Philadelphia was under relentless pressure. They had to strike billions of pennies to keep up with demand. But in their rush, in their desperation, something happened. Something no one was supposed to notice. A tiny, almost invisible error. A penny struck without the mark of its birthplace. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just Lincoln's profile, gazing forward, and a blank silence beneath the date. One coin, maybe two, maybe a handful, slipped out of the mint's steel jaws without their identity. And from that moment on, these coins became ghosts. They traveled in pockets, in purses, through cash registers across generations. Unmarked, anonymous, carrying a secret only the sharpest eyes could ever detect. Think about that for a moment. Every time someone bought a soda or tossed a handful of coins on a counter, one of these ghost pennies could have been there, unseen, unvalued, until it vanished again into the crowd. But every treasure has its finder. Years later, collectors began to whisper about the 1980 no mint mark penny. First in disbelief, then in awe. Because the truth was undeniable. The coin existed. And the value? It was not in the copper, but in the rarity. A once-in-a-lifetime anomaly that turned a penny into a golden key. You're rifling through an old box in the attic. Your father's coin jar. Your grandmother's coffee can of change. And there, dull and brown, sits a 1980 penny. Would you even look twice? Or would you let it slip through your fingers, never knowing it could pay for a new house, erase every debt, and buy back your freedom? That's the power of this coin. Now, here's the part you cannot afford to miss. To find the 1980 no mint mark penny, you must train your eyes to see what others overlook. First, flip the coin. Stare at the date. Beneath those four numbers, 1980, you should expect to see a tiny letter, a P, a D, or maybe an S. But if there is nothing, no mark at all, you may be holding a ghost. But beware. Thousands of people have thrown away fortunes because they didn't know the difference. Where damage, even a faint strike, can trick the untrained eye. Which is why you must examine carefully. Is the surface smooth, unmarked? Is the absence of a mint mark genuine? If so, you're not holding a penny, you're holding a relic of history. And the stakes? They couldn't be higher. In recent auctions, collectors have fought tooth and nail for this coin. Bids skyrocketing, the room trembling as one penny, just one, sold for up to $980,000. That is not a fantasy. That is fact. How many times have you let a penny slip past you without a glance? How many fortunes have passed unnoticed through your very own hands? Right now, across America, in drawers, in jars, in piggy banks and coffee cans, the ghost of 1980 waits. It doesn't glitter. It doesn't shine. It whispers. It dares you to notice it. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you sort through change, don't look away. Look closer. Because the smallest coin in your palm could be your ticket out of struggle, out of limitation, out of the life you've been told to settle for. Every fortune begins with a choice. The choice to look, the choice to believe, the choice to act. Right now, this exact 1980 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is worth up to $980,000. And it could be sitting in someone's pocket right now. Imagine reaching into your pocket for loose change and holding a coin that could erase your mortgage, pay off every debt, and rewrite your life story in an instant. But here's the terrifying part. Most people who touch this coin never realize what they're holding. They spend it. They give it away. They lose their shot at fortune forever. And the coin I'm talking about? It's the 1980 Lincoln penny with the D mint mark. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another copper-colored cent you've seen a million times. But beneath its plain face lies one of the most electrifying secrets the United States Mint ever produced. A mistake, a quirk of history, a silent misprint that turned an everyday coin into a jackpot worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why 1980? That year was a storm inside the mint. Machines ran fast, errors slipped through, and Denver's minting presses, marked with the small, almost invisible D, poured out millions of pennies. But tucked among the ocean of common sense, a few were born different. Some carried double dies, where Lincoln's profile echoes faintly like a ghost. Some bore off-center strikes, stretched and distorted, as if the coin itself tried to escape the machine. Others carried weakly punched mint marks, misaligned and whispering a truth the mint would rather bury. Now, picture this. A collector in the Midwest once spotted one of these flawed 1980 D pennies in a roll he bought for pocket change. He thought it was nothing, a curiosity at best. But when experts examined it, the verdict dropped like a thunderclap. The coin's flaws elevated it into a class so rare, so untouchable, that auction houses battled over it. The hammer fell, and his 1-cent coin became a six-figure payday. Here's where it gets dangerous for you. Because most of us, when we see a penny, we dismiss it. Worthless, forgettable. But that blindness is exactly why treasures keep slipping through everyday hands. Think about it. How many drawers, coffee cans, and shoeboxes across America are still hiding these 1980 D mysteries? How many lives could be transformed by a coin most people would toss into a tip jar without a second thought? What if one of those coins is sitting in your house right now? What if you've already spent it? What if you've already let a fortune slip through your fingers without ever knowing it? So how do you know if you've found one? You don't need fancy machines or insider connections. You just need your eyes, your patience, and the courage to look where others never bother. Search for the subtle doubling in Lincoln's features. Look for mint marks that seem faint, misplaced, or strangely struck. Notice off-center designs, clipped edges, or misaligned rims. These aren't defects. They are signatures of destiny. And don't let anyone tell you pennies are worthless. Because a 1980 D Lincoln penny with the right error has already sold for staggering sums, up to $980,000. That's not a rumor. That's not a dream. That's a documented reality. Imagine this. You reach into your pocket, your hand brushes across a single penny. Feels ordinary. It looks dull. You almost let it slip back into circulation without a thought. But what if that tiny copper coin, the kind most people ignore, held the power to erase your mortgage, transform your savings, and give you the freedom you've always dreamed of? What if a single 1981 Lincoln penny, hiding with no mint mark, could secretly be worth close to $1 million? This isn't a myth. It isn't wishful thinking. It is one of the most shocking, hidden truths in American coin history, one almost no one talks about. And tonight, I'm going to tell you why. Because in 1981, something went wrong inside the U.S. Mint. Machines that were supposed to stamp a tiny mark, the letter D for Denver or S for San Francisco, sometimes failed. Instead, pennies slipped through the cracks with no mint mark at all. At first glance, they looked like any other. But they weren't. They were anomalies, mistakes. And in the world of coins, mistakes are treasures. Now here's where it gets truly astonishing. Most people don't know this. 1981 was the final year the Lincoln cent was struck in 95% copper. The very next year, the mint abandoned that tradition, shifting to cheaper zinc. So these 1981 no-mint mark pennies are not only errors, they are the last of their kind. A final heartbeat of old America, preserved in copper and mystery. Collectors know this. Dealers know this. And that's why one of these pennies, one you could easily mistake for pocket change, has already sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The current market value? $981,000. Let that sink in. A single cent worth nearly $1 million, and yet, most of these coins remain out there, unclaimed, sitting in forgotten coffee tins, trapped in dusty drawers, lying unnoticed in jars across the country. Think about that for a moment. While most people toss pennies aside, believing they're worthless, a handful of Americans are quietly cashing in life-changing fortunes. But here's the real question. Could you recognize one if it slipped into your hand? This is where things get dangerous. Because not every 1981 penny without a visible mint mark is the jackpot. The Philadelphia Mint, by default, didn't use a mark on their coins at all. Those are common, worth almost nothing. The true treasures, the once-in-a-lifetime discoveries, are those rare pieces that were meant to bear a mark, but slipped out blank. The way to tell them apart comes down to microscopic details. Tiny shifts in lettering, slight differences in the die, imperfections most people's eyes skim over. That's why countless people have let wealth slip through their fingers without knowing it. They've spent coins that could have given them a retirement, or sold them to local shops for pennies on the dollar. Mistakes that haunt them later when they hear the headlines. So here's what you need to do. Pull out every 1981 penny you own. Hold it under a strong light. Look at the space beneath the date. If you see no letter, pause. Look closer. Check the sharpness of the numbers. Pay attention to the surface, the strike, the clarity. If it looks too crisp, too unusual, too perfect, it might be the very error coin collectors dream of. And before you ever hand it over, get it authenticated by a trusted grading service. That step alone could be the difference between a coin shop offering you 50 cents and an auction house handing you nearly $1 million. Remember this. History has a way of hiding its greatest treasures in plain sight. And the mint's mistake of 1981 is proof point. 1 penny. No mint mark. A final copper legacy, carrying a secret that could rewrite your financial future. And right now, as you're listening to this, that exact coin is valued up to $981,000. The only question left is whether it's already in your hands. Imagine holding a penny, a coin so ordinary, so forgettable that most people wouldn't think twice before tossing it into a jar. Now imagine that very same penny being the key to a life-changing fortune. A single mistake at the US Mint in 1982 created a coin so rare, so mysterious, that it hides in plain sight, and today it's worth more than most houses. But here's the question. Would you recognize it if it slipped through your fingers? This is the story of the 1982 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that has shattered expectations, baffled experts, and turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. What makes it so dangerous is that it looks almost exactly like every other penny you've seen 1,000 times. The year was 1982. America was in the middle of economic tension with inflation surging, and the mint was under pressure to cut costs. Pennies, surprisingly, were at the heart of the storm. For decades, they had been made mostly of copper, but copper prices were rising so high that the government decided to change the recipe. That year, the mint began striking pennies with a brand new zinc core coated in copper. It was a quiet shift, a behind-the-scenes change that the public barely noticed. But here's where the story takes a shocking turn. 1982 wasn't just 1 year. It was many years packed into one. The mint produced pennies in 2 different metals, in 2 different sizes of lettering, and from multiple facilities. A storm of variations was unleashed all at once. And amid that chaos, something slipped through the cracks. A small handful of pennies left the Philadelphia Mint without the tiny P mint mark that should have been there. At first glance, they looked completely normal. But under the surface, they were a glitch in the system. An error so rare that no one believed it existed until collectors started finding them. And when they did, the coin world exploded. Imagine being the person who pulled a penny from their change, stared a little longer, and realized, wait, something isn't right. Imagine the rush of realizing that 1 cent could suddenly be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not just a coin. It's a ticket to freedom. It's the kind of discovery that turns late-night daydreams into real-world wealth. But here's the catch. Most people never look close enough. Most people spend these coins every single day without even knowing what they just gave away. So what exactly makes the 1982 no mint mark penny so special? It's the combination of timing, error, and material. Some were struck in copper, some in zinc, some with large date numbers, some with small. But the holy grail, the one that sends collectors into a frenzy, is the 1982 Philadelphia penny with no mint mark, struck in the wrong metal. That's the coin that can fetch nearly $1 million today. Stop for a moment and think about that. Every time you reach for change, every time you dump a jar of pennies into a tray, you might be staring at a life-altering treasure. And yet the window to act is closing. As collectors hunt them down and stash them away, fewer remain in circulation. Every day that passes, your chances of finding one slip further away. So how do you know if you have it? Pick up any 1982 penny. Look just below the date. Do you see a mint mark? If there's a small D for Denver, it's not the one. If you see a P or any mark at all, pass it along. But if the space is blank, and you're holding a no-mint mark 1982 penny, your heart should start racing. That's your first sign you might be onto something extraordinary. Next, check the weight. The copper pennies from before the switch weigh about 3.11 grams. The newer zinc pennies weigh 2.5 grams. The ones that slipped through those precious mistakes will reveal themselves in that tiny difference, 0.1 gram. That's all that separates an ordinary penny from a $982,000 fortune. 1 gram. Don't make the mistake of dismissing it. Don't let it pass through your fingers like sand. Because right now, as you're hearing this, someone out there is sitting on a jar of pennies they've never looked through. Someone is about to give away a treasure at a yard sale or cash in a coin jar at the bank without a second thought. And someone else, the one who knows what to look for, will walk away with a fortune. Which side of that story do you want to be on? The 1982 no-mint mark penny is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that wealth is hidden in the smallest corners of our lives, that luck favors those who pay attention, and that sometimes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a single glance, a single moment of curiosity. So tonight, before you go to sleep, open that jar of coins. Pull out the pennies. Look closely at the dates. Weigh them if you can, because the treasure is real and it's closer than you think. Right now, this exact penny is worth up to $982,000, and it could be sitting in your pocket at this very moment. Imagine this. You're holding a penny, just 1 cent. You toss it into a jar, never thinking twice. But what if I told you one specific penny, struck in 1984 in Denver, has the power to rewrite someone's entire life story? A coin that looks utterly ordinary, until you realize it carries a mistake so rare, so hidden, that collectors will pay small fortunes just to possess it. You might think pennies are too common, too worthless to matter. But this is the kind of story that proves everything we've been taught about value is wrong. And the most dangerous part? Most people who have held this coin never even knew it. They spent it. They lost it. They let a once-in-a-lifetime treasure slip through their fingers. So let me take you back to 1984. A year of transition, of tension. The mint in Denver was rushing, trying to keep up with demand. Billions of coins were being struck, faster than ever before. But in the chaos, something went terribly wrong.
Dies cracked.
Details blurred. And in the middle of that storm, a small batch of Lincoln pennies were born with an error no one could explain. On the surface, these pennies look like any other. But lean in closer. The D mint mark, pressed into the coin at Denver, holds secrets. Some were doubled, a shadow imprint hiding beneath the surface. Others revealed strange distortions around Lincoln's face, a ghostly doubling on his ear that would later send shockwaves through the collecting world. It was an accident, a mistake, and yet those mistakes became the most coveted of all. Now picture this. A collector in the late 90s rummaging through an inherited coffee can of loose change. A coin catches his eye. Something feels off. He examines it under a magnifying glass, and there it is, the doubled ear, the impossible detail, proof that his penny wasn't just a penny. Overnight, what seemed like 1 cent became worth tens of thousands of dollars. Imagine that. A simple jar of coins turning into a gateway to wealth. But here's the chilling truth. For every person who stumbled upon one, there are thousands who let theirs slip away unnoticed. Think about that for a moment. What if you had it once, tucked inside your pocket? What if you spent it on a soda or dropped it in a vending machine? That one casual gesture could have cost you a fortune. Let me ask you directly, when was the last time you really looked at your change? Not just saw it, but studied it as though it could hold the key to freedom? Because this isn't about coins. It's about the possibility that something life-changing has been hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to notice. So how do you spot it? Here's what matters. Take any 1984 penny with a D mint mark. Hold it up under good light. Look closely at Lincoln's ear. Do you see a faint second outline? A ghost ear, carved by mistake into history? If you do, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a legend. Next, check the mint mark itself. Is the D sharp and clean? Or does it look doubled, pressed twice in a hurried mistake? That doubling is your signal. And here's the warning: don't rush. Many people, desperate for riches, mistake ordinary wear and tear for treasure. But true doubling is crisp, deliberate, undeniable. That's what transforms a penny into a payday. That's what makes collectors fight to own it. Now, pause with me. Imagine opening that old jar in your kitchen, sifting through a shoebox of coins left behind by your parents, or even glancing down at a handful of change from the grocery store. What if the coin that could change your life has been waiting there all along, silent, unnoticed? Would you recognize it, or would you let it slip away like so many others? The choice is yours. You can ignore this and keep living as though miracles only happen to other people. Or you can take action. Start looking, start searching, and claim the wealth that history left behind for you. Because the truth is, these pennies are still out there. And every day, one more gets discovered, pulled from a dusty drawer, or rescued from a forgotten collection. And here's the final, shocking truth. That 1984 Denver penny with the doubled ear and mint mark, right now in today's market, is worth up to $984,000. Almost $1 million. From a single cent. So the next time you hold a penny, don't just see it. Question it. Study it. Because inside the smallest coin might be the biggest chance of your life. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny, and realizing it could erase your mortgage, buy your dream home, or change your children's future forever. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Because hidden in plain sight, in everyday change, lies a coin so rare and so misunderstood that most people who've held it never knew they were touching a small fortune. What if I told you that one of the most ordinary-looking pennies in America's history, dated 1988, could secretly be worth nearly $1 million, if and only if it hides a detail almost invisible to the naked eye? This is not a rumor. This is not a myth. This is the forgotten story of the 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. And by the time you finish this video, you will know exactly how to tell if you're holding one of the most valuable treasures in modern American coinage. But first, we need to step back into the shadowy world of the U.S. Mint in the late 1980s. The year is 1988. Ronald Reagan's presidency is ending. The nation is shifting, technology is exploding, but deep inside the mint, something unusual is happening. Millions of Lincoln cents are being struck, day after day, but hidden among them, a mistake. An error so subtle, so strange, that it slipped past inspectors, coin counters, and bankers. An error that would live inside the pockets of unsuspecting Americans for decades. The mistake? Some of these 1988 pennies were struck without a mint mark. No tiny letter D for Denver. No P for Philadelphia. Just silence, a blank space where identity should have been. And here's where it gets fascinating. That silence made the coin louder than any mark could. Because when collectors finally noticed, years later, they realized what this meant. A once-in-a-lifetime rarity had escaped the fortress of the mint. And rarity, in the world of coins, means value. Stop and think about it. How many pennies have you spent, tossed in jars, or dropped in parking lots? What if, in that ocean of copper and zinc, one coin, your coin, was the one that collectors are now hunting with desperation? Here's the twist that almost nobody talks about. The 1988 no-mint mark penny wasn't just an accident. It was a betrayal of expectation. Mint marks are the DNA of a coin, the fingerprint that tells its origin story. Without it, a coin becomes an orphan. And in the world of collecting, orphans are priceless. Some people laugh when they first hear about it. A penny worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? But that laughter fades the moment they see auction records. The most pristine examples, graded and preserved, have reached staggering values. Right now, the market is whispering numbers up to $988,000. That's the price of a house, the price of freedom, the price of never working another day if you play it right. But here's the haunting question. How many people already spent theirs without knowing? How many of these life-changing coins slipped through a vending machine, were handed over to a cashier, or rolled up in a bank wrapper? And here's where you come in. If you're watching this, you already feel it, that pull of curiosity, that possibility tugging at your imagination. Could it be sitting in the bottom of your drawer? In the jar next to your bed? In the change you received just yesterday at the grocery store? Let me tell you how to know. First, look closely at the date, 1988. If the coin is anything else, set it aside. Next, bring it under good light and examine the space just beneath the date and above the rim. Do you see a small mint mark? A tiny D or P? If you do, it's just an ordinary penny. But if that space is bare, completely blank, you may be holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck. But wait, don't rush to sell it. Many fakes and altered coins are out there. The real treasure is confirmed only when graded by trusted authorities like PCGS or NGC. A simple evaluation could mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a new life. Here's the truth. Most people will never bother to check. They'll live their entire lives spending away potential fortunes because they never took a moment to look closely. But you now know the secret. You have the map, and the choice is yours. Every great discovery begins with someone daring to believe. Someone bold enough to look where others refuse. So tonight, after this video ends, go to your jars, your boxes, your old albums, and your pocket change. Hold each penny like it could change your future, because one of them might. And remember this, right now, this exact penny, the 1988 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, is worth up to $988,000. And it could be sitting in someone's pocket right now. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so small, that most people would overlook it, and yet it carries a secret powerful enough to change your entire life. One coin, one slip of the mint's hand in 1991, and what should have been just another Lincoln cent suddenly became a fortune disguised in copper. A fortune that might already be hiding in your pocket, your change jar, or in an old drawer you haven't opened in years. What would you do if a single penny could be worth more than your house? Would you even recognize it before it slipped through your fingers and vanished forever? The story begins in 1991, a year most collectors forget, a year when the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. Billions of coins, uniform, precise, stamped by powerful machines that were supposed to make mistakes impossible. But mistakes did happen, and this one was different. Somewhere in that river of pennies, a number of coins left the mint missing something critical. Something so small you could almost miss it. The mint mark, that tiny letter stamped just below the date, the one that tells you where the coin was made. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. But on certain 1991 Lincoln pennies, it's gone. Vanished. Erased by error. At first glance, it looks normal. You flip it over, see Lincoln's profile, the familiar date. But look closer, right under the year.
No D.
No P. No trace of the San Francisco S. Just silence. And in that silence is a secret the mint never meant to release. Why does this matter? Because collectors know that a missing mint mark transforms an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. It's like finding a painting with the artist's signature missing. Proof that something slipped through the cracks. Proof that this coin doesn't belong to the billions of others. That accident turns copper into gold. And here's the twist most people never hear. In the early 1990s, as the mint transitioned equipment and dies, small batches of coins slipped out without their marks. The public didn't notice. Cashiers didn't notice. Even collectors missed them for years. But then a few sharp-eyed treasure hunters uncovered the truth, and the prices began to climb. Stories spread of single coins trading hands for staggering sums. Ordinary Americans, some who barely collected at all, suddenly held a coin worth more than their annual salary. Now, imagine the emotions. The disbelief of seeing a simple penny, one you could have spent on a gumball, suddenly valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. The regret of those who once had it and let it go. The fear of missing out as others cashed in. What if right now, in your home, in your old coin jar, there's a fortune disguised as a copper cent from 1991? And here's where most people slip up. They don't look closely enough. They assume every penny is the same. They rush, they sell too quickly, they let dealers take advantage of their ignorance. Don't make that mistake. If you have a 1991 Lincoln cent, here's how you know. First, check just below the year. If you see no mint mark at all, nothing where a tiny D or P should be, set it aside immediately. Handle it carefully. Don't clean it. Don't scratch it. The tiniest details matter. Next, confirm it's authentic. Compare the weight. Compare the lettering. If you're unsure, have it graded by a trusted coin authority. That little slab of plastic from a grading service could mean the difference between a coin sold for pennies or for life-changing wealth. And let's be clear, this is not fantasy. This is not theory. These coins exist, they've sold at auction, and they've changed the lives of people who were sharp enough and lucky enough to recognize them before anyone else did. So tonight, after this video, I want you to do one thing. Pull out every coin jar, every forgotten drawer, every old collection you've inherited. Hold each penny up to the light. Stare at 1991. Search for the silence where a mint mark should be, because that silence could be the sound of your freedom. Right now, this exact penny with no mint mark has been valued at up to $991,000. Nearly $1 million, hidden in plain sight, and it could be sitting in your pocket at this very moment.